of the week. For those of you who have been joining us, we have hosted a daily lunch and learn every day this week, except for Tuesday. But I think this one will for sure probably be the best one of the week so far. So again, thanks to everyone who has joined us. For everyone who's here with us, just want to share some quick tips about how to best engage with us. Since we're all here on Zoom, if you do have questions as we go through today's conversation, you'll see again that there is a chat box for you to engage with others. In the chat box, you will see that there is a way for you to direct your questions directly to a person. So if you have a question for our panelists, please send your question directly to me, and I'll make sure that your question is shared throughout the day. If you have joined us by phone, then you are welcome to email your question to me directly. My email address is jholston, that is JHOLSTON @lgbtcc.com. So if you received the invite just a few minutes ago, you can just simply respond back to that message with your question. For those of you who are joining a chamber event for the very first time, again, thank you so much. Quickly, we are a 24-year-old organization that supports LGBTQ and ally-owned businesses with networking, professional development, marketing, and advocacy. One of the other great resources that we provide is helping businesses that are at least 51% controlled, managed, and operated access the LGBT Business Enterprise Certification. With this certification, those businesses can access corporate and government spending opportunity as diverse suppliers. So I'm sure we'll probably hear hopefully a little bit about today and some of the great work that has happened in that space. So definitely, if you are a business owner or know someone, please direct them our way to get connected with us. This series, our Lunch and Learns, is part of our overall April Blitz, where we have done an activity every day for the month of April. You can still go back to our Facebook and Instagram posts from last week, where we were hosting an activity that we call Tea Time. So every day you can go back, see those posts, and spill the tea with us. Let us know what's happening with your business, encourage others, and engage with others to help us grow and engage in just growing our businesses in that way. And then I hope that you all will join us the week of April 20th through the 24th for our Industry Week. Industry Week, every day that week, we'll be doing a Zoom event that will provide some breakout sessions for people to come together and learn based on the industry. So in the chat section, you'll see where I've already provided some links to a number of resources, including some resources from the WBDC, a resource to our own, a link to our own COVID-19 page, some webinars that talk about some financial resources, as well as some other topics as well. But you'll also see our event page, which will take you to the Industry Week activities that we'll have going on. For those of you who are looking for financial resources, again, I encourage you to apply sooner than later. I'm sure we'll get again into more details about these, but as you can imagine, these resources are available on a first come basis for the most part, and so definitely please apply sooner than later. If you do not already have a financial partner, you will see that there are links there to find a SBA approved lender. Of course, here at the Chamber, we do have the great fortune to be supported by a number of financial institutions, such as Chase, Wintrust, U.S. Bank, Bank of America, and Fifth Third Bank. But of course, use whatever financial institution is best for you and your situation. So with that, so other last thing, I know for those of you that have been here with us every day this week, you've been able to join us for our secret word contest. So if you recall, every day this week, we are encouraging you to support one of two LGBTQ owned restaurants. The two that we are encouraging to support this week are Lady Gregory's in Andersonville, or Wild, located in Lakeview. In the chat section, you will also see links to both of those restaurants. You can call their offices directly, their businesses directly, or order through Grubhub's, Uber Eats, DoorDash, or Chow Now. We are giving away a gift card to both of those restaurants if you have the secret word that we've shared every day this week. So today's secret word in celebration of Easter is pastel. So add that to all of your other words, and then at the end of today's conversation, we'll see who has all those passwords to get the gift cards to both those restaurants. So on to today's topic. Again, super thankful to everyone who has joined us today. I'm sure we'll learn more about who they are, but just quickly from my own sort of 2 cents that I can add to their introduction. We are fortunate to have with us Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison. Thank you so much for joining us. Many of you may remember the Commissioner from our inaugural keynote breakfast that we hosted last year. So thank you for being our speakers there, as well as your partnership to champion LGBTQ businesses at the Cook County level to access spending opportunities there. We also have with us City of Chicago Alderman Andre Vasquez. Many of you may know him as he was the one and only co-sponsor that we had that supported our resolution to get the City of Chicago to support and engage LGBT-owned businesses. For those of you who don't know, through the support of Alderman Andre Vasquez and ultimately some support of others, in January, the City of Chicago was able to pass a resolution that will now require a year-long study and that will study how the city engages with LGBT-owned businesses in its spending. And so hopefully we'll have more updates coming down the road, and we'll be able to expand more opportunities down the road. Last but surely not least, we have Elliot Richardson here with us, president of the Small Business Advisory Council. Hopefully you all heard us announce last year at our winter soiree that we formed a partnership with the Small Business Advisory Council to be able to connect our members with information around advocacy on behalf of small business owners. So thanks to all of you for being here with us. Now I'm going to turn it over to Michael Nordman. For those of you that don't know, Michael is one of our newest board members that came on in April and will be doing a great role in championing our fundraising and advocacy efforts. So thank you so much for Michael for joining us in leading today's conversation. Of course, feel free to add whatever other bio information you'd like to share as well. As a last tidbit, again, for those of you that have questions, please share your questions directly with me in the chat box. So again, in the chat box, you can direct questions directly to someone. So if you have the questions for our panelists throughout today's conversations, direct your questions directly to me. If you have joined us by phone, please email me your question. My email address is jholston, that is JHOLSTON @lgbtcc.com. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Michael. So thanks so much.
Hey there, good afternoon, everyone. Jerry, thank you for having me be a part of this and moderating the panel, and thank you to all the panelists for being there. I'll just do a brief intro on myself. As Jeremy mentioned, I am Michael Nordman. I am the Community Affairs Director for Molson Coors Beverage Company. We make a lot of your favorite beers like Miller Lite, Coors Light, Blue Moon, Leinenkugel, and others. I am drinking out of a Miller Lite cup today, but it is water, just for the record. Uh, you know, we've been very involved also in the coronavirus crisis, as I'm sure many of your businesses have, whether it was donating water, converting to hand sanitizer so that we can get it to first responders, and also supporting many in the service industry. So I really do encourage people to, you know, order from Lady Gregory, order from Wild, or order from other great restaurants because it's really important during this time and they need our help the most right now. So with that, I'll get us started. My first question is going to be directed towards Alderman Vasquez and to Mr. Richardson. So what financial resources have been made available to assist small business owners during this time?
Sure. So I know there's different levels. So I'll speak to the city. Right now, what the main fund that they put together is the Small Business Resiliency Fund. So that's $100 million, 50 of which were coming out of the city coffers, the other 50 from private industry to help support any businesses that need it. So they're providing $50,000 loans, low interest ones. I believe it's like a 1% interest over like a 12-month period for businesses that need it, and it's targeted towards businesses that have made less than $3 million annually. So it's really targeting like the smaller businesses that need the support. When envisioned by the mayor, it was thought of as kind of a stopgap measure as we kind of wait for like the larger state and now seeing the CARES Act, what they can provide. So that information we have on our website as well as on the city website for the Small Business Resiliency Fund. It's the primary fund that the city has made. What we're trying to do also is connect all the other funds that are available through different levels so people know how to access them. So on our website, which is 40thward.org. That's 40thward.org. We actually have a COVID tab that specifically has resources for businesses. So as we hear about any of them through any means, we're putting them up there on a regular update for people to check out.
Great. So thank you. And it's a great question. Obviously, it's a question we hear from just about everybody is what sort of funding is available for small businesses during this unprecedented time. And I hope everybody is doing okay and everybody's safe and healthy. And thanks for having me on this. So I've got like 5 pages of different materials on the different lending opportunities that are in place for small businesses. Unfortunately, right now, actually accessing funds through these programs is extremely difficult right now. So there's a lot of frustration among small businesses and entrepreneurs because while they've stood up these different loan programs, and I'm going to talk about in a second, the question that people will probably start typing in the bar is, why have I not gotten my advance on my disaster loan yet? The $10,000 that the SBA was supposed to turn around in 3 days. And the answer is because they're not processing them yet. And that's nothing at all against the SBA. I've sat on panels with them. They're working very hard, but they are completely overwhelmed. So I'll tell you what's out there, and I'll do it as quickly as I can. And then if people have questions, I'll see what I can answer. Everybody's talking about the PPP loans, right? The Paycheck Protection Program loans. And these are loans, they can be significant for 2.5 months of payroll for businesses under 500 folks that can turn into grants if people retain their employees. And that is what is so attractive right now about the PPP loans. It's why everybody's laser focused on them. The problem is, how do you apply? Okay, so my first advice to folks is talk to your banker. Talk to your financial institution, and then get on the phone with your accountant and start putting together the paperwork. If you do not have a line of credit with a bank, if you don't have that tight relationship, it's going to be more difficult. And that's where you have to start really calling around. Talk to the chamber. Who are their partners, right? Get on the phone and see whether or not you can establish a relationship, and they'll put you towards the front of the line in applying for these funds. Now, question we get, are the funds going to run out? Everybody is worried that the funds are going to run out. The banks will tell you it's not a tremendous concern of theirs right now, but they are concerned. Everybody's concerned, and that's why they're going back to Congress. And they're trying to get, an additional, I think it's $250 billion to put on top of this fund. So we had an entire forum yesterday with a congressman, and almost every question was on the PPP loans. So again, I don't want to monopolize the time. I'll leave it there and answer questions, but I would say apply now. There's the SBA disaster loans. This is what everybody was scrambling for before the PPP loans came out. And these are SBA loans up to $2 million that cannot be grants, but they're low interest loans. You know, the question is, can I apply for those and also apply for the PPP loans? The answer is yes, you can. You know, a lot of people will tell you, if you qualify, apply for everything and see what happens. Now, everybody's focused on those. We're going to have a town hall, which everybody here will be invited to, with the Illinois Treasurer next Wednesday. He's trying to stand up a state fund, $250 million through community banks that can get money out more quickly to small businesses. I mean, again, that's the problem. Everyone's trying to stand something up, and so is the county, and I'm sure Kevin can talk about that in a second, and I'll leave that for you. But you know, the question is, you got to apply, and you got to see what all that means. Now, that treasurer's loan is meant to be a bridge. It will not be forgiven, but for businesses that are just struggling to survive right now, I mean, struggling to make payroll, these can be bridges that business owners should really think about taking advantage of. And, you know, we can talk later about gig employees, independent contractors. If you're on this webinar, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms right now. How are these people going to get access to these funds that they are allowed to do? But the process seems to be very, very difficult. So anyways, I will stop talking. And, you know, if people have questions, I'm glad to talk further about the different funds. And of course, the Alderman talked about the Resiliency Fund as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to make a note, I didn't mention this earlier. We are going to do the questions that come in on the chat towards the end. So we're going to leave 20 minutes for that. So continue to send your questions that way. And I'll direct this to Commissioner Morrison as well. What sort of financial resources are being made at the county level as well?
Of course. And, you know, I think Elliot was absolutely correct in the information that he was providing. My office has been working really hard to keep everything from local to the federal level, every type of assistance that is being made available. We're trying to push that out through all of our social media. I'll put in the plug. If you go to my website, commissionerkevinbmorrison.org, and hopefully one of my staff will add that to the comments so people have it, because they're on the line today too. We're trying to make sure that all those resources are available so that people see what is out there. In terms of the payroll protection program that Elliot was discussing, it is, of course, all these application processes could always be a headache, especially when we're dealing with all the stress that is in our daily realities today. But the Cook County Bureau of Economic Development, if you reach out to them, they are offering technical assistance on how to move forward in the application process for the payroll protection program. So that's a way to get some added assistance if it's needed. Now, first and foremost, the county led an initiative to postpone the dues for sales tax for our local businesses for February and March to the end of April. So that's one of the things that we did at the start as everything began to change. Now, also the Cook County Community Recovery Initiative is something that we launched, which is a rapid relief loan program for small businesses of up to $20,000. That's another thing that's being offered by the county to help get some immediate financial assistance to businesses that are in need at this time. But there are definitely a large array of programs out there, and we want to make sure that as new types of assistance become available, that we are sharing that on all of our media and websites and the like.
Could I just jump in really quickly and just compliment Commissioner Morrison and the county for that deferral of sales tax? That's a big deal. And you know, that's allowing people to keep money in their pockets. And we have called on the governor to also defer sales tax payments for 2 or 3 months for all businesses that gross less than $3 million, not just small bars and restaurants, but that's something very meaningful that the county did. And I think that's important, and I think that should be adopted by all entities right now. People can hold on to that money, pay their staffs, and try to survive during this difficult time.
Yep. In addition, the city's also deferred like bottled water tax, checkout bag, amusement, hotel accommodation, restaurant and parking as well. Because yeah, it's absolutely right. Like when none of the businesses are receiving the revenue they typically would, every little cost is that much more like stress to what you're running in your organization. So absolutely.
Great. No, I appreciate that. So another question here. So what are some of those future resources that we'll need to really get business owners back on their feet and rebounded after this? Are there things that maybe aren't in place now, but that you're looking at and considering going forward, or that you would even hope to see that maybe haven't actually passed or become, you know, a reality yet?
Totally. Thank you for asking that. I know the thing that I've been really pushing on and kind of getting focused and advocating to different levels of government is really rent and mortgage relief, because that affects not only residential, but absolutely all the commercial brick and mortar businesses that are having the same pressures that anyone does when they've got a lease, right? So to me, it's something that it's challenge. It's surprising to me that this hasn't been thought of earlier on, because April 1st already passed. Once May 1st comes, it's going to continue to aggravate the issue. I know that the city's put in place, I believe for commercial and residential, where evictions can't move forward in situations. However, they can still be submitted. So once we get to the other end of this crisis, it doesn't actually solve that problem. It only exacerbates it. So the thing that I'm really putting a lot of focus on is to advocate for a rent and mortgage freeze or holiday or some sort of relief, because the impacts of that will be staggering across the whole economic sector if we don't get our head wrapped around it.
Yeah, it's that particular issue. It has to be well thought through. I mean, think about it. You might have a commercial landlord, right? And he may have a tenant, and that tenant may have subtenants. And as you go down, you're getting the smaller and smaller businesses, but they're all facing the same thing. Frankly, just like that commercial tenant or that commercial landlord. I mean, when the commercial landlord hears from a third of his tenants, we're not going to pay because we can't. These are things that I agree with the alderman. This has not been addressed yet, and that's going to be vital to how we recover from this pandemic. And the other thing I would say is, as we come out of this pandemic, a level playing field is going to be very, very important. I mean, we've got to make sure that all the small businesses, frankly, are the folks that we got to make sure they're not the people who close the door. Their doors, and all we have left are the larger companies that were able to weather this storm. And I think everybody has to work together, big and small, to make sure that we all come out of this together.
And if I could just echo that, no, that's absolutely correct. You know, right now we have deferred evictions for the moment. A lot of our courts are offline for the moment. But there is a great need to assist, especially those non-essential services who have their doors closed, and it's very, very hard for them to have any income at this moment to deal with, you know, those immediate payments that are going to be right around the corner. Those are important questions, and I've been using my voice to reach to the state level and the federal level. I've been talking to my federal, my local congressman and the like about expanding the amount of funds that are going to be pushed toward this PPP program and other programs, so that they could be directed at the county and the municipal level, so that we could get some of that funding allocated right to our businesses that are most critically at need at this moment. You know, I know I've shared, for those of you who are at the keynote breakfast, you know, I come from a family that owns and operates a small business. My mom and aunt own a restaurant, and you know, we've seen over half of our business disappear. Now it's curbside pickup and delivery. And there have been so many stresses. So not only did I recognize the stresses our business community was seeing before this crisis, but I'm also seeing firsthand what those effects in this COVID-19 reality and what those issues are being placed on our local business community. So I've been spending a lot of time reaching out to all of our local businesses out here in the northwest suburbs, talking about what their needs are, what are the issues, trying to share with them all the programs that are becoming available. But the honest truth is we do need more, and we need to be brave in advocating for the absolute needs of our business community, because we need those small businesses to still be able to function once we're able to return to business as normal, because we need to make sure that that wide variety of folks is able to go back to work and be able to be part of the system. We need to see a great economic recovery once things begin opening up. And that means making sure that those businesses can keep their doors open and they won't have to fear potential eviction or their business folding.
Great, thank you. And I want to get to something else that Mr. Richardson had mentioned earlier too, that's kind of on a lot of people's minds. You mentioned the gig employees and these independent contractors. What are the specific challenges they're facing, and how are the different either government bodies that you're a part of or entities that you're a part of, how are they handling and addressing those needs as well?
Do you want me to? I can start and tell you, a couple of the issues, and then have our elected folks weigh in. I mean, there's two things. There's relief in the CARES Act for independent contractors. So if you're an independent contractor or a gig employee or a solopreneur and you're on this webinar right now, I mean, many of you have just been shut down, completely shut down, right? And that's terrible. I mean, and how do you recover from that? So there's up to $100,000 for gig employees in the CARES Act, right? The question is going to be, how are people going to get to a bank and get their hands on that money when it's only a $100,000 loan and they might not have a relationship with a bank? That's where our elected officials, folks like the chamber, we have to advocate for that. We have to be there for our employees. And the second thing is unemployment insurance. Again, in the CARES Act, it says people who are not eligible for unemployment insurance can now take it. And that's gig employees. But IDES can't process these people yet. So again, people are sitting there without money, and we have to be advocates in that regard. So those are my initial thoughts on what we're seeing from gig employees.
Definitely.
And if you don't mind if I add, the Cook County Community Recovery Initiative that I mentioned earlier, that specifically includes gig workers as well and independent contractors as well as small businesses. And so that's a program that would be applicable, especially for gig workers as well.
Yeah, and I think what we had for them, unfortunately, was the housing assistance program to be able to provide like rent for folks that need it as well. But that application ended April 1st. So I think what you're articulating is absolutely the same thing across the board, that we all need to be bold and loud, asking for those resources to be, one, invested in the communities that need it, but also that we figure out the processes to expedite this, right? Because it is very much the small business owners and this is the gig workers that it is most urgent need for, right? Like as you're kind of higher up, you can kind of weather some of that storm, but the folks that need it the most, it's not surprising, but it's always the ones that it's most difficult for them to access funds. So I thank you for bringing that up. I know that Commissioner Gaynor has like every Thursday at noon has like an SBA call so businesses can come and get help as far as accessing those resources. But I think it's something I'd love to talk to you more after the call so we can set up something at the city level so people know how to contact our office and have a liaison to kind of help them maneuver through this.
Yeah, and to Commissioner Morrison's point, look, I forgot to mention the county loan program that was just set up there. So while everybody is hyper-focused on the PPP loans, right, and banks are getting overwhelmed with that, gig employees can go to the county now and work on getting some money to bridge the gap to keep them, going during this very difficult time. I'm really glad you brought that up. And again, that's something that's real positive that just came out of the county.
Great. And then another question, do you guys expect more things coming from the state and federal level in terms of assistance? I mean, I know we kind of talked about your specific areas, but do you think that you'll see more action from the state and the federal side that you've heard of so far?
Yeah, I'd say yes, right? I know we've gone through, I think, how many stimulus packages, and they're working on another one. And the thing to think about that I just keep in mind is we don't know when this is going to end, right? Like just to be completely frank about it, we have projections of what happens in other countries and states, but we don't know if this doesn't come back in waves like a flu would. right? So what happens if we think we're out of it, but then we come in a fall, right? So as we don't have a real sense of how long this is, I mean, I would argue this has changed the way we look at our society, period, and how we're going to function forward. I don't see a situation where there wouldn't be more funding coming because of the gravity of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. They're already talking about a third stimulus right now. What's going to be in that third stimulus? That's sort of being baked out as we speak. We know they're looking for more money from the PPP loans. I think the state's really going to have to get on how it is that they're going to help businesses right now. You know, one of the things a lot of businesses are worried about is actually their unemployment taxes. You know, will there be a moratorium on increases in unemployment taxes for small businesses starting March 1st? That's something we're pushing because we know all the claims that are coming out. And then I think being innovative as a community with our elected officials on the phone, with the people, just the small business community, what is the economy going to look like when we come out of this? Because it is going to be different. And how do we work together to help people tackle this new reality and help entrepreneurs tackle this new reality?
Absolutely. And, you know, actually, we've talked a little bit about, you know, talking to your legislators, you know, really raising our voices with banks and others. And that kind of got me thinking about one activity that I was excited to do during the coronavirus, which was my census and filling out that form. So can we talk a little bit about the census, what it means, what its importance is, and how can we help get out the word about it? I'll open that up to anyone who wants to answer it.
Oh, if I could please jump in, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because I was definitely going to include at some point that please, if you have not completed your census yet, please go on and ensure that you do. My office, in the months prior to, you know, the reality we're living in right now, was doing a lot of work to get information out about the 2020 census. We had a 8-part video series that we did at Brookfield Zoo on various topics and you know, questions about the 2020 census from everywhere, about privacy issues to why it's important. But the fact of the matter is, you know, this is the first census in which LGBT married couples are able to actually state that they are in a same-sex partnership, which is quite critical. And I'm happy at least that that question was included. I know I would have really liked to see more specific demographic questions about, you know, a more LGBTQ specific question on the census. But what's vital is the fact that each of us represents anywhere from $14,000 to $18,000 over a decade that goes directly to our community. So completing that census is critical, especially in moments like this where we need census data to be able to know where we're directing funding in a healthcare crisis like we're dealing with today. That data has been used all throughout this country. And we know that we didn't have a complete count 10 years ago, and it's even more important that we have a complete count today. So hopefully you've received your letters, and honestly, it took me 1.5 minutes to complete mine. So it's really quick and an easy process to do with a huge impact.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo and champion the same thing. It's two things. It's money and representation. And that is vital to every single one of us. And if we're looking at the projections last census compared to this, we're actually 10% lower than what it was last time, obviously because of the effects of how our society's changed, right? Like, we're not out there. The campaigns for getting the census information out, those, like every other campaign, has been limited because everything's digital. You have to get the information out that way. So what I've been starting to do, because we just had a call earlier with the mayor about this, is adding it to my email signature. And I would advise anyone to put it on every possible means of communication. So if the chambers get it out to the different businesses, we have to make sure that as many people as possible are able to fill this out, because it is very much life and death when we're talking about the resources we all need.
And I would like to throw out there too, and this is a question for anyone viewing or on the line right now. Have you shared anything on your social media about the census? And if not, I hope you take a firm thought on whether or not you should. And I think you should, because it's important that we all utilize our voice to get out the word to our networks about why the census is so critical. We have historically had a undercount in the LGBTQ community, especially when it comes to LGBTQ folk who are unstably housed and them being able to respond to the 2020 census. There's a video on my social media pages right now of me and Mayor Lori Lightfoot discussing the need to get our LGBTQ folk to respond to the 2020 census and why it's so critical. So that's something you could share. That's easy. You don't even have to think of anything to write. You could just share the videos out there today. Or you could look out any of my Zoo videos if you are if you have a community and you have a network that is scared about privacy concerns, if you know folks who might be undocumented, we have a video series exactly directed at privacy concerns and how the Census Bureau is not legally allowed to share any of that information with any other body of government, with landlords, with local police forces, any of that. It only can stay with the Census Bureau itself. And so to alleviate any of those concerns, do it. My office is also about to come out with a census video in Urdu, Gujarati, Hindi, Spanish, Polish, and Korean. So if you have populations that speak that language at home and you have a network that would speak out to, look out for those videos as they get posted on my social media and give those a share as well.
I think we're going to leave some time for questions for folks on the line here. So if you have questions, again, remember to either type them in the chat box so that we can ask them, or direct the email to Jeremy if you're on the phone so that we can get those questions in. I'll ask kind of a fun question here at the end. How are you all, each of you, sort of staying sane and getting adjusted to this new reality of working at home and doing that? Are there any tips that you would give to folks on the line who are these entrepreneurs, these small business owners who are now, faced with just sort of being alone with their ideas and thoughts?
Yeah, if you want to, Commissioner, if you want to go first.
It doesn't matter, but thank you. No, I would just say, first and foremost, what has helped me get by these past few weeks is cooking and cleaning and taking walks around my neighborhood. Those are ways, I love cooking, and being a public servant, I usually am not allowed to be at my house for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So it's very rare that I actually get an opportunity to cook. So that's something I've enjoyed, breaking away from the chaos of the moment. But there's also so many incredible ways to give back right now. You've probably heard in the past couple days, there are major shortages of food and an increased need at our food bank. So, like, for example, out in the northwest suburbs, Schaumburg Township needs donations. That's just one example. You can donate food or monetary means to your local food banks and have a huge impact right now that will help you fulfilled from home. Now, if you are someone who is healthy and able, maybe don't have a pre-existing condition and are able to leave your house to volunteer at this moment, people need help packing food. There are a lot of places that need more volunteers. Yesterday, me and some of my staff went out to Hanover Township. I dropped off a total of 85 meals to seniors out here in the northwest suburbs. So that was one way that I was able to do something constructive, get out of my house, but also ensure that I'm providing food to seniors who are most at risk so that they don't have to go out to the grocery stores. And that made me feel so good and was a way for me to kind of get off of the grief that we're all a part of at this moment.
That's amazing. Like the question was funny to me because I was trying to figure out if I was sane before this. So I think that's a bit of a challenge. But like, it's definitely gotten crazier. Like I think 2 nights ago, I was at 8:30 at night during a thunderstorm chaining up tennis courts, right? Like that is what municipal government looks like in this moment. Thankfully, where I tend to channel all of like my anxiety and stress is in work. So I don't know if it's the healthiest over the long term, but what we've been doing is organizing neighbors, right? That because of the world we live in, we can't do the outreach we normally could. So we've been organizing our neighbors and set up a neighborhood network. So we've got a call team, a team that's willing to volunteer to do pickups and drop-offs across the board, communications, a legislative research team, an events team. So we're thinking about virtually what it looks like to do coffee chats or a book club or maybe reading stories to kids to keep them inside and also not going stir crazy. And finally, there's a team called the Sewing Guard. So we have some sewists in the ward that we're putting together like an assembly line to create masks that we're then providing for small business retail workers who don't have them, because they're the people who most interact with the public. So they need the protection, as well as also providing like social influence. Because if you see everyone's wearing a mask and you're the one not wearing the mask, then you need to get your game on and make sure, right? I think those things are where I'm funneling energy aside from like the normal functions of government, because it's necessary. Like we're in the positions and we have the privilege to serve. So I'm going to pour in every bit that I've got into it, especially now.
Yeah, so I've got twins and a tween. So from my perspective, and everybody is, 14 and 12, we're just trying to make it through the house on any given day without anybody hurting anybody else. So, but what's been really great is that my twins and other high schoolers and frankly college students have gotten very, very engaged in the SBAC's efforts. And I haven't seen it. We're literally getting more interns right now from colleges than we know what to do with. And we're deploying them in different policy initiatives. And how can we help small businesses? And we're going to launch a gift card program, or at least drive people to places like your chamber. And it's really exciting to see. And I know a lot of it is that people are at home. So, if you've got college students and they're at home and they're not out, they have this extra time on their hands. But the fact they're willing to give 20 or 30 hours a week to help small businesses and help try to save jobs is one of the best things I've seen come out of this tragic situation. So that's really exciting to me.
If I could throw in one more thing.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
On the topic. I know one of my townships specifically at their food bank are a way to help support our small business community, and I want to throw out that plug as well. Some food banks are accepting gift cards. So what you can do is go to one of your local restaurants, like Wild, for example, that was being discussed earlier, get one of those gift cards and provide that to the food bank to give out to folks who might be furloughed or laid off at this point, who need means to be able to get food for their families, and that at the same time is supporting our local business community.
So, and I just quick shout out to Lady Gregory's in the 40th Ward, so totally feel free to come help out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just wanted to plug really quick too. I mean, I know that the United Way has also set up a COVID-19 relief effort that's helping neighborhoods across the Chicagoland area, both Cook County and Chicago. And so I think that's a great way if you are looking to donate funds somewhere. Feeding America can help you find your local food bank that's near you so that you can get connected on opportunities. Greater Chicago Food Depository is another one. So I just want to plug some of those groups that are out there and resources that you can look at online to figure out if you can volunteer, donate, or just support. But I also agree with you. You mentioned the gift cards idea. And I mean, that's really helping some businesses stay alive right now. And, they'll get your business down the road, but they need those fund injections now. So I encourage people to do that where they can as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy, who's going to direct some of the Q&A that's come in over the chat.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael, and everyone for that. No need for me to talk about how awesome all that information was. I'm sure you felt it inside of you when you said it. So thank you for all of that. So I'll just go directly to some of the questions that we've received here. Wrong page. So Elliot, maybe you can answer this first. So can the emergency injury disaster loan and the PPP be used for the same purposes?
No, so this is my understanding. I am not with the SBA, but I've been studying this a lot. So the answer is no, but you can get them both. And they can be used for different purposes. So that is the payroll protect. If you're using the PPP loans for payroll, and then you use the disaster loans for another purpose, it's my understanding that you can get both of those concurrently.
I don't know if anyone else had some wisdom they wanted to share to that. So another question, I'm not sure who might know the answer to this one, but How can businesses that provide health-related services get engaged with local government initiatives and FEMA funds?
I can start with that. So I think the question is really where can you provide help? And where we've been directing people is to the Illinois Hospital Association. And I think there's different places where you can direct people. And we have had some members who have converted their businesses and are creating PPP, whether it's masks or hand sanitizers. It's been exciting to see. And absolutely, we're sending them to the IHA, but I'm sure there's other places where people can go as well.
Yeah, I know at the city level, we're having everyone literally reach out to us because we can escalate that to the mayor's office because they're in contact with all the hospitals in the city on a daily basis. So they identify where the need is. So if there's folks who want to help and provide, whether it's PPE or something else, absolutely feel free to reach out to us directly. And we can escalate that to the mayor's office and talk to the legislative team to get that moving too.
So I would also put in the plug as well, if we have any manufacturers on the line who are either currently or already transitioning to help do PPP needs at this moment, I would say the Illinois Manufacturers Association has teamed up with the state of Illinois, and they could even provide you specs on how to transition to creating some of these PPEs. Now, if anyone on the line also, when things started going crazy, went online and maybe ordered an insane amount of N95 masks that you have in your closet right now that could be going to our critical healthcare workers. I'm not going to call out anyone. I don't know if any of you have done that, but if you have, we've been sharing ways that you could donate gloves, masks, face shields, and the like to Illinois. It's pp.donations at Illinois government or Illinois.gov, I think it is. Yeah, ppe.donations at Illinois.gov is a way that if you have PPE in your house that you want to get rid of to help support our first responders and healthcare workers, that's a way you can do it. But also, if you reach out to us, I'd be happy to help connect you with the Illinois Manufacturers Association if you want to help transition to making PPE. If you are a catering company who's out of work right now, a lot of local governments are creating alternate housing for people who don't need to be hospitalized, but say live with, say at-risk population, so they can't go back home. So if they're being housed while they're dealing in this crisis, those folks still need to be fed. So if you're a caterer, I would say reach out to IEMA, the Illinois Emergency Management Association, or reach out to the Cook County Emergency Management and find ways of doing that type of outreach with those parts of local government to see if there's a need that needs to be filled at this moment in terms of feeding those folks.
Definitely. And actually, to piggyback on that, like if there's anyone is like different scale hotels or motels or anyone that could provide units for first responders, because that's very much it. These are the folks that are going out there, putting themselves at risk, and then they're not going to put their families at risk. So they need other places to be able to kind of just stay during this thing. So if anyone has opportunities there, definitely let us know, because we know that there's a need for that.
Another question. For people who are self-employed but own the business, but are on the payroll at that business, what types of forms or evidence will they need as they apply for the PPP? You may know.
Well, I can't tell you exactly the forms that they're going to need. I can tell you they should be able to apply for PPP loans. And I would start with their accountant. This is a time to call your trusted advisors. People always talk about the fact they're trusted advisors, whether they're lawyers, accountants, financial folks. So this is the time to call. Call your banker. If your banker has your accounts and they've enjoyed having your accounts for a long period of time, if they can't get on the phone with you, somebody from their bank should, and say, listen, here's what you need to put together. The PPP loans those loans are not supposed to be meant to be an exhaustive process, okay? They're supposed to be meant to provide only the amount of information that's necessary for then a financial institution to process that loan. So what I would say is, talking to SBDCs may help, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. I agree with all of that, but man, the people who are your advisors, that's where to start. But they are available, and I would pursue them.
Thank you. So I do want to sort of just be aware of time. Elliot and the others, if you can hang around for a few minutes. Obviously, if you have to go at 1, that's more than understandable. But just in case there are still some other questions as we wrap up. But definitely, if anyone needs to go, definitely understandable. I did, before we lost the folks at 1 o'clock, I did want to do our Lunch and Learn sweepstakes for the restaurant giveaway. So if there's anyone who has all of the magic words, wants to raise your hands or say, "Hey, Mika, I know it first." I'll give you. Oh, Timmy! Timmy is just out of the box, ready with it. Timmy has already won, everyone. So, so Timmy did have all of the correct passwords. So on Monday, if you guys remember, our conversation was onward, the plan for mental and business success, and we talked about self-compassion. So self-compassion was Monday's word. Wednesday, we talked about social media and branding, and so our word on Wednesday was hashtag LGBTCC. So if you do any tweeting or Facebooking today about today's conversation, be sure to use that hashtag. On Wednesday, the password was Census 2020. So again, we just all heard the value of completing that census. Hopefully you guys all saw my comments in the chat box. If you haven't checked out Commissioner Morrison's Facebook census videos at the zoo, I definitely encourage you to go and check them out, as they have been very entertaining. And then today's word, of course, keeping in light with the season, pastel. So hopefully you will all wear your best pastel and take pictures for us this weekend so that we can see you in your homes. So Timmy, you'll get a $25 gift card to both of those restaurants. And so we'll be sure to send those your way. Everyone, if you haven't ordered your lunch yet, do be sure to still support those restaurants today and just for the rest of this period where you can. I do see where Elliot has shared his contact information, but I will give each of you the opportunity to just share your ways people that can contact you, just in case you do have to leave our folks today. Hop off very quickly. So I'll start the way I see you guys on my screen here. So Commissioner Morrison, if you want to let folks know how to get in contact with you. Go on as you unmute yourself.
Typed it on the chat group.
Sorry, doing that now.
There you go. I can hear you.
How's it going?
Good. If you just want to tell people how to get in contact with you.
Yes, so you can email me at kevin.morrison@cookcountyil.gov. I've added that as well as my website to the link right here. Just if you put Commissioner Kevin B. Morrison in your search on Facebook or Twitter, you'll find all my incredible zoo videos as well as on YouTube. So if you're looking for a laugh right now, they're quite funny. So please check them out.
Then how about you, Alderman Vasquez?
Yeah, so folks can contact me at andre@40thward.org or at our website, www.40thward.org. I just added that to the chat group. I actually will have to drop at 1, but I did want to notate something before it slipped my mind. You had mentioned the city's LGBTQ resolution, and because of the moment we're in, I think we're going to have to amend it so it's more than a year, or submit actually a different resolution, because you can't get a fair gauge in the moment that we're in as far as representation and the data for the businesses. So I just wanted to put a pin in that to make sure that's something you hold me accountable to getting work done on.
Yep, it is in our notes, so we'll definitely reach out to you about that. And then last but not least, Elliot, I know you shared it there, but just again, how can people reach out to you?
I did. Yeah. Thank you so much. Just, you can email me at elliot@sbacil.org, or you can, our website's sbacil.org. So feel free to answer any questions or help in any way that we can. And I can say, if anyone's got questions, I can stick around for a couple minutes afterwards.
Okay, perfect. So I was going to ask that. Of course, for those of you who might have specific questions about the PPP, the EIDL loan, or the SBA loan, again, while Elliot is not going to be the know-it-all be-all, I'm sure he's going to know a good wealth of information that he can share with you. And so if you do have some questions about getting through those processes, or just what they are in general, definitely please feel free to hang around for a little bit, and Elliot has made himself available, so there. Again, I do encourage everyone to join us again the week of April 20th through the 24th for our industry week, as I believe it's going to be very exciting. We are bringing on some other chambers and organizations to partner with us, so you will have the opportunity to network with other people beyond just our chamber here as well. Again, a big thank you to Michael for leading this conversation today, as well as our very awesome speakers who took time out of their day to join us with such a little bit of time to get together. So thank you all so much. If you haven't completed that since today, be sure to do it. And I look forward to seeing you all in the near future.
Thanks. Thank you, Michael.
Let's keep on hanging out if you have questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alderman. Thanks, Commissioner.
Good having you all online.
So see, we have just a couple more people here.
Sure, no problem.
I'll mute everyone. So I'm not sure if anyone had any questions, but I've unmuted everyone if they want to.
Yeah, Elliot, actually, so for the economic injury loan/grant, I put an application in last week, and since then it's been crickets, and I know you mentioned that they're just not being processed yet.
Right.
Do you know, have you gotten any sort of indication as to when they're going to start and et cetera?
Timmy, I don't. I haven't. And Scott Baskin, who I think you know, was on a call with the SBA today, and he sent me a note that said they haven't processed one yet. So, I mean, I think ultimately we're waiting for that to happen. And I know the SBA is working on it, but we don't have a timeline. Hopefully it's going to happen soon. And, you know, maybe they process some, I don't know. But what we're hearing consistently is that people just aren't getting those grants. And we're also hearing, we don't know necessarily whether they're going to be $10,000 or not. So, you know, at first it was going to be $10,000 over 3 days, and you were going to get it within 3 days. There's just a lot of uncertainty about that program right now.
Okay, cool. The other thing I was going to offer, and I wish other folks had stayed on, but as far as the PPP, the SBA has been changing requirements for financial institutions over the past couple of days. You know, obviously it's a fast-moving situation, and my institution is basically like barely been keeping up, and they're not sure that they're going to be able to start processing their applications today. And I wish Colin had stayed on. He probably would have been able to address that too, but I don't know if that is helpful for anyone else that's on there.
Well, you know, what we've heard is that some people came out of the gate and they allowed people to fill out the loan applications, but funding hasn't been there. So and there is this whole slew of banks right now that hasn't accepted applications yet, you know, and apparently they're just trying to get it right. I just think that for people that expect the PPP loans to be offering, I hope I'm wrong, And I hope that, you know, people fill out loan applications, are accepted, and 1 week later, the funds are coming in. I think there has to be a contingency plan for people, which is why looking at that treasurer's fund, you know, learning more about that, the Cook County program. You know, the question is, have these programs been stood up yet? Because the creating of a lending platform and then the actual lending of money seems to be not a surprising disconnect, but that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
That's why we'd really like to see this. I mean, I understand sales tax doesn't impact people in the service industry, and it would still only provide relief to a certain number of people. We had also asked for a deferral of unemployment taxes at the beginning, but I just don't know how realistic that is given the number of people taking unemployment right now. But you know, that's the thing. We'd like to see the state do some of that as well. So instead of going out and having to get money, you can keep some of the money that you've got right now during this unprecedented time.
Thanks. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long are these deferrals? I've seen it. I don't remember how long it's allowed.
I think that so bars and restaurants in Illinois that I think paid less than $75,000 in sales tax for the year were qualified for a deferral. I don't recall exactly how many months that was for, although 3 months seems to ring a bell for me. You know, we'd like to see that just expanded to all small businesses right now. I mean, if you're, and there doesn't seem to be a reason why it wouldn't. I mean, you know, if you're a retailer and you're closed down, I mean, you know, you're not even essential, I don't think. So, you know, whereas I don't think there's curbside pickup for a shirt. You know, or for some other things, there should be relief that's equitable across the board. And that's what we're pushing right now. But it's going to take, you know, we sent out an action call, and a lot of people sent an action call to the governor and the lieutenant governor and their legislators, and we haven't heard anything yet. And I mean, it's just going to have, now, there was more engagement on that than I'd ever seen before, both of our action calls. But at the same time, you know, the problem is it's just going to have to be a groundswell. People may get there, though, if this continues. I mean, you know, small businesses really need this relief.
Was there, I see we have a couple other people here. Was there anyone else that had questions for Elliot? So we have Sophia, Latanya, and someone else by phone. No.
No, I just wanted to say this was a very great conference call. It had a lot of valuable information. I took so many notes. In fact, that's what I was doing, typing when you called my name, because I'm just taking in as much information as possible. And for my supplier diversity program, I'm just trying to get as much information out there to small businesses as possible. So this was so very valuable and helpful for me. As I'm trying to also get up to speed with some of the laws out there and the requirements related, because as you can imagine, dealing with a small business supply chain, we're getting a lot of questions, and we've got folks that are really concerned and you know, about their businesses, and you know, as we're slowing down, they're slowing down. And one large corporation slowdown is totally different from a small business slowdown. So this is very, very valuable. So thank you so much, Elliot, for being there and providing this information for small businesses. And thank you, Jeremy, also for, you know, being here to navigate, help the LGBT companies navigate. This is a crazy time, but it is also a time of great opportunity. We just have to do it right. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Cool. Well, I think that is everyone. But Elliot, for sure, definitely thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of that great information with us. We'll definitely have to find another time to chat, to really, I know you guys have so many great initiatives going on that we didn't even get to talk about today. that you guys are working on even prior to COVID around small business advocacy. And so we'd love to make sure that our members are connected to that information and resources. So we'll have to get together sometime and make it happen.
Yeah,
Love to.
good to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Tim,
Timmy.
great to see you as well, and we'll just keep getting you all information. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you. Everyone have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.